called to
do
order.
that and have.
And
update
do we,
down every-
County Council, do we have any additions to the agenda?
Chairman, there are no additions to the agenda.
Okay, can you read closed session into the agenda?
Yes, I'll read it into the record, Chair, members of the board. There's 3 items for your closed session. The first is under Government Code Section 54957.6. That's conference with your labor negotiators. And here your agency representatives are Director Noriega, Deputy CAO Begay, and Human Resources Manager Carter. The employee organization is all units and all unrepresented employees, excluding elected officials. There's existing litigation matter and a conference with your legal counsel under Government Code 54956.9 subsection D1. The case is Kim Island versus Civil Service Commission, County of Madera, and it's a Madera County Superior Court case number MCV 085689. And the last is under Government Code Section 54957. There's a consultation with Sheriff Pogue, the Madera County Sheriff's Office, and that's a threat to public services or facilities and a consideration of tactical response plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment from the public on these items? Any public comment? Anyone online? No one online. Okay. Bring it back to the board. Any comment from the board? If not, we'll retire to closed session time. Board of Supervisors is continued, and let's see, I don't see their county council. Do we have anything to report out of closed session at this time?
Chairman, there are no reportable actions from your closed session.
Okay. And do we have anyone to open and close in memory of this morning?
Yeah, I'll
Rob?
make a comment.
Okay, anyone?
Yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to open and close in memory of Pam Mendoza, who is the mother of our friend Cindy from probation department. Her mother passed away of cancer, and our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family.
Yes, appreciate that. You said the mother of Pam Mendoza?
No, Pam Mendoza is the
Oh, Pam
mother,
Mendoza, the mother of, okay.
Cindy's mom.
Okay, Cindy's mom.
Jones. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. At this time, we'll have Pastor John Purcell from the Believers Church in Madera come forward and do the invocation. And I'll ask Micah if she'll lead us in flags.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with thanksgiving and honor and praise, having experienced your hand on our lives, on our communities, and all the help you've given us to bring us to these last few years. We thank you, Father, that as we move forward into our future, that your wisdom is available. And I pray right now in agreement with everyone here that the wisdom of God would just be downloaded into the hearts and minds of everyone who's here today to participate in this meeting, and the things that are said, the things that are established here, that it would be able to go forward and go on into the future in your will and your plan for our county. We ask you to help this family that's grieving right now, the other families that I've encountered that have had loved ones pass this last week. And I'm sure there are others here that have probably the same. We ask you just to comfort and strengthen and help them and help us to help them in any way we can. So we thank you for it all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, public comment.
The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take any action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Any members to address the board on public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Matt Treber, Chief of Development Services. I wanted to give the board and the public a brief update this morning on the operations we have occurring up in the Foothill and Mountain communities. I'd like to start first to thank the public for their patience and understanding. We are doing everything we can, working around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until we can get all of the snow from our roads removed up there. We have called in a number of contractors, 7 at this point, for some assistance with some smaller equipment and skid steers and loaders to remove within the Bass Lake community, Bass Lake Annex, Cascadel. Many of them have already mobilized and are on site pushing snow, and we will continue to do that until it is removed and all roads are passable and safe out there. So again, big thanks to all of the staff that's working 24/7 on that, and continued thanks to the public. Be safe, stay warm, and we are working around the clock to get access into them. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank God for the snow and the rain. Come ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, staff, and members of the public. My name is Tracy Scott Contreras. I'm currently, for 3 more days, the Executive Director at the Workforce Development Board. And I just wanted to come today to thank you all for your support and collaborative spirit over the course of the last 5 years or so that I've been in the Executive Director chair. But more importantly, I wanted to introduce you to the new Executive Director of the Workforce Board. It is my great privilege to ask Ms. Mainu Vang to come up to the microphone to introduce herself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and board members. My name is Minu Vang, and I am the new Executive Director. I have had the honor and privilege of working with Tracy for the last 12 of the 37 years that she has been with the local workforce development board area. We hope to make this transition as seamless as possible, and I look forward to our continued partnership with the Board of Supervisors. Thank
Very
you.
much for introducing yourself. Welcome. Any other public to address the board? Anyone online?
None online.
Not, we'll close public comment and we'll go to the consent calendar. Note that item F has been requested to be pulled. Item F. And any other items to be pulled for discussion?
Chair, I was hoping to pull item H for discussion, and then I
Okay.
also had a couple comments on items E and I.
Okay, so item H will be pulled for discussion. Let's, any other members?
I'd like to pull item G. G as in Gonzalez.
Okay, G. And so G and H will be pulled for discussion.
No, just
Oh,
a comment.
oh, just for comment?
Mhm.
Okay,
And I believe E and I as well, Supervisor.
Correct, yeah, I had a couple comments on E and I.
okay.
And then
so-
H, I was hoping to have a little discussion on it. I think be great for the public to hear about a little about what we're doing there and how we came to be, so.
Okay, so go ahead and comment on E and I.
E, we have a emergency evacuation grant that the county applied to for in collaboration with our local fire safe council. And so I just wanted to say thanks to Tristan Champ along with the team there getting that done. It's going to be a great opportunity for the community to kind of come together and tackle some of these big issues around evacuation routes. So thanks again, Tristan. I appreciate all the work you're doing. And then on I, just a simple paving project on a parking lot at a community facility there. Excited to see that get done. I know there's a lot of groups that come to that area and they meet. And I think that parking lot's been a mess since I was about 12 years old. So excited to see it get fixed up some 20 years later. So thank you.
Very good. Item G, go ahead.
So for item G, just, I don't have any issues with the bulletproof glass in the treasurer tax collector's office. I think it's vital and essential. But my concern is about reconfiguring the break room. We have a lot of break rooms in this building. And so I just think that our money would be better utilized elsewhere, like repaving parking lots and whatnot. I know it's just for the engineering and eventually that will come forward. But we have lots of break rooms in these buildings and to knock down walls for a department, then which other departments are going to come forward to want to reconfigure this? I have some concerns about that, the precedent that we'll be setting.
I agree, and I think we'll pull item G for a separate discussion and well as item H. Okay, so any other comments on any of the other items? Okay, public
Oh.
comment, any public comment on the consent calendar? Anyone online? Okay. Then we'll hear a motion to remove item F
No.
and pass the others except for G and H.
I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar items with the removing item F and as well as G and H.
I'll second.
Motion made in second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers,
Yes.
vote passes 5-0.
Okay, item G.
I mean,
Let-
I agree with the bulletproof glass. I don't have an issue with that. So I don't know if we want to modify that and I know there's some type of committee that looks at renovations and improvements to all the buildings, I believe. I don't know how I want to.
Hello, Jorge Mendoza, Capital Project Manager. So the bulletproof requirement, it will be an alternate when we go out to bid. If the department can't afford it and it's within their budget, it will get implemented. So it'll be a base bid or base design will be full height walls, non-bulletproof. This bulletproof level 3 typically is what we install throughout the county. That's going to be an alternate. And like I said earlier, if the department is able to afford the bulletproof design, then at that point, we'll come back to the board with a possible construction contract with the contractor. Does that make sense?
So what does that mean for I don't have an issue with that. It's just the reconfiguring a break room. Can we buy a microwave stand to go? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Anybody from? They're coming. So that's a department request. Obviously, we just listened to the department, so they're coming on their way to explain their desire for this break room.
Okay, well, while we're waiting to hear from them,
I just have a question of
Go
Jorge
ahead.
while he's here. Jorge, just like a ballpark, just out there, what kind of a cost would be associated with the break room?
Right now, our remodel costs are around $300 per square foot. I believe this is a 200 square foot area. But again, I'll leave the department speak to what they're. Yes.
Hi, Jackie, with your Assistant Treasurer Tax Collector, here to answer any
Yeah.
questions for you. I was assisting staff, so I lost track of time this morning.
So the concern is that to remodel a break room, I don't feel it's necessary when we have a break room on the second floor. We have a huge break room on the third floor, one on the first floor. So the request, it's all or nothing, I guess. I don't have an issue with the lobby, but to knock walls down and reconfigure a break room when, most of the break rooms in this building are not very comfortable either. We have Carla and Micah who sit out of the kitchen and have to smell some of the food during the lunch hour. So I just feel like we could better utilize those dollars elsewhere.
I think it's more of when Treasury entrance, it's a back entrance, and when you're turning the corner, it's a very narrow corner. And when the Treasurer's Tax Collector's office was built 15 years ago, this wasn't the original plan to not have the wall built that way. And now we're having staff and vendors kind of run into each other because they can't see who's coming from around that area, so to say. So I'm welcome or open to kind of show you guys exactly the area that we are talking about and the reasons and concerns. And the concerns came up more during COVID, when we had the protocols where everyone enters through one door, everyone needs to wash their hands just to take those extra safety measures. And when staff's getting their coffee and someone's coming from around the corner, the last thing we want is for someone to get burnt because someone has coffee and didn't hear someone there or anything. So it is also a safety issue just to open up that space.
Let me speak. So it's not that we're implementing a new break room. There's already plumbing, electrical, there's a coffee bar per se or a break area. It's just a remodel to make a better use of that space. There's a second entry from a fire exit that if you look at the space when it was originally designed, I think there's a lot of dead space. If I could use that term, it's really not usable. There's other exits to that space that meet code requirements. So it's just configuring the space to make a better use of it.
I have my concerns too about, $60,000 is quoted as a possible, that's a lot of money.
So what we're looking at is
I
we
could
are
build a
also,
kitchen for that.
that's included into the tax collector lobby, so to say. So what that we're looking to do is, because the growth in the TOT short-term rentals, the growth in business license renewals that our office handles, and also the growth in actual property tax collection payments that we are getting with more and more development that is going on around the county, our office is impacted by all of that growth because there are more direct charges on the tax bills.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the lobby itself. It's the break room issue. We've got some really nice break rooms built into this facility. If a person wants to utilize a break room, as Letty said, I don't have a problem with the lobby thing. It's the optics on spending $60,000 on a break room.
The 60,000 is included, it's all included.
I understand.
Okay.
Understand that. So you're saying 60,000 for the lobby and the break room? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. It's,
No, so
Oh.
the 200 square foot is just for the break area. What we can do is proceed with the design with Paha Legion. And basically, when we go out to request prices, get a bid for the lobby and get a bid for the break area. And at that point, we'll come back, and then if you wish to approve
Okay, so
just a remodel of the lobby,
what's the
we-
cost of the design then for the break room?
it's all included here, the 38,000 for
It
Paha
would be
Legion.
38,000 whether the break room was included or not.
Correct.
Then I'm okay.
And
with
that's
that.
fine.
You're correct. And when we come back with the final design to propose for a contract, we'll have two separate prices. One, a price for the lobby remodel with an alternate to include bullet resistant glazing, and a price for the break area.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
Thank
any
you.
other discussion on this item? Okay, we'll go out to public comment. Any comment from the public on this item? None. Bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure, board?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second, motion made and second, Rob. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Wilmhoff,
Yes.
Supervisor Portress.
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes,
Vote passes 5-0.
thank you. Item H. What is the,
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. Anthony Loza, General Services, and Jorge Mendoza, Project Manager. Be happy to answer any questions you may have. The item we have before your board is a contract with Fortune Ratliff for Phase 3 of the construction of the Oakhurst Government Center. So we went out to bid back in April of 2022, and we received one construction bid, which came in about $4.8 million. And at that point, we had made the capital projects team made the determination that, obviously that was way over budget for the improvements that needed to be made. So we went back and worked with the architects, and we did some value engineering on the project itself. So we received a revised construction bid of $3.9 million, which is the cost of the project for just the contract piece of it. And Jorge Mendoza can go over some of the improvements that are going to be made to the facility with this next phase of the project.
So some of the improvements included in the Fortune Rattlers contract is ADA accessibility, sidewalk parking lot to the building. The current ramp that's there is not compliant, doesn't meet the path of travel current codes. And then inside, it's basically paint, carpet, basically interior finishes, some water configurations to accommodate the tenants that are going to go in there, which is Department of Social Services and Public Health, and then remodeling the conference room at the large conference room at the government center to accommodate board meetings and other type of meetings and events.
how large is that conference room and how many people was?
I don't have the square footage in front of me specifically for that conference room, but I could get that to you.
Okay, thank
It
you.
does provide 2 exits. So once you have 2 exits to a conference room, it basically comes down to, per code, you could fit a lot more people because one person can accommodate 7 square feet. So I'll get you that information. You can accommodate more than that seating capacity is going to be there.
Thank you.
And Jorge, will the plan to be that we can do board meetings, on the road board meetings over
Correct.
there at that time? So that'll be
Correct.
a cost saving effort for the county long term.
Yeah, so we already ordered the furniture and we already have that set up to have board meetings at the Oakhurst Government Center.
And then are you able to let us know about some of the contracts that the county currently has for renting facilities throughout the Oakhurst area? We're going to be able to end those contracts and consolidate into the government center. Is that correct?
So repeat the question again.
So it's kind of a leaded question, so I apologize. As far as the contracts that we have through Department of Social Services, behavioral health, I think public health, we've got buildings all around town and we'll be consolidating those. So we'll no longer need those contracts for the most part, right?
Correct. Behavioral health will remain where they're at. The tenants that are moving into the space are the Department of Social Services and Public Health.
Perfect.
The ones that are currently occupying already are building. We have District 5 staff offices, Public Works, Veterans Office, and Water and Natural Resources. Recorder's office is also going to have space in there. And then there's future phases that approximately 1,800 square feet that we're not remodeling right now. But in the future, if there's a need for other departments to have presence at the government area, at the Oakers area, there's space to remodel, basically offices.
I have a question. So originally
ahead.
it was 4.8 million and we received one bid, correct? And so you went back to architectural analysis to find some value in reducing that cost down. Did we go out for another RFP or did we work with the same contractor who gave us that bid?
Yeah, we work with legal counsel. What we did is reach out to legal counsel, get advice from them. We work with our architect to remodel the spaces that we were originally trying to remodel and value engineer. So the biggest component that we deleted out of the scope of work was a generator for the facility that can be installed at a future phase if we wanted to. But then things, some of the flooring, not necessarily we went with cheaper options, but they still meet the county standards. They're just better value.
Right.
So we were able.
I'm talking more about did we use the same contract?
We did.
Okay. And was there any effort to garner more bids than one?
At that point of the direction was to work with the contractor to reduce scope and our architect.
Okay. Because I do have some concerns with, putting out an RFP and we only get one bid. That's concerning to me, especially for such a high dollar
Mhm.
project.
And Supervisor, I'll let you know, I was able to sit in on the walkthrough
Yeah.
when we did that, and there were a number of contractors that did participate in the walkthrough. However, they just didn't provide a bid, I think.
We did bid outreach, and like Bobby, our supervisor, Macaulay saying, we have multiple contractors and we have that a lot when we go out to bid. And we stay in constant engagement and send them addendums as they come forward. At the end of the day, we can't control how many bids we get.
I get it. It's just concerning that we only get one bid, right?
Yeah.
That's concerning because if it's profitable,
The-
people are going to be out
Yeah,
there bidding.
there's many factors that play into this. So Fortune Ratliff is a contractor that primarily works in the mountain area. It's hard to get, because a lot of the contractors that work out there, it's their bonding capacity. So there's small local contractors that typically get work in Oakers. To get a large contractor to go out there for this size project, it's really not attractive, I guess, per se.
I got you.
We could get contractors for in general, Harris Construction. It's just the money's not there for them if they don't have local presence already there and they're not accustomed to work out in the mountain areas.
I got you. That makes sense. Thank you.
Rob, go ahead.
Jorge just provided the information I was going to provide in terms of difficulty in getting
Yeah.
contractors in that area. So thank you.
Let's go ahead, Letty.
Can you make sure the break room is configured? Thank you.
Yes. And Chair, the last thing I want to say is
ahead.
that I know there's been a lot of folks working on this project since it was purchased back in, I think, like 2019 and kind of sold to the board as a shovel-ready project, which clearly it was not. So I just want to thank, admin and thank you guys for all the work you've done, getting the cost down, because I know it was considerably higher than we had anticipated. So thank you for all the work on it. Really am excited to get that center up and running. I think it's going to be a great resource for the community up there. I know folks are excited for it as well. So one last thank you. And unless there's any other questions from my colleagues, I'd like to move to approve.
Yes, we'll take that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second. In the way of further discussion, just to note, for the public's information and just to make note of it, that this is a transfer out of operating transfers into building improvements from the government center and operations fund. So this is not general fund money being used for this specifically. Is that correct?
The funds are actually the 2.1 million is coming from the general government impact fees
Impact
is where we're
fees, right?
moving the funds. Yeah. And just
That's
for
what I
a
was
full,
trying to point out.
yeah, just for full transparency too, what you're approving today is the contract, the 3.9 million. There are going to be additional soft costs associated with that. However, we'll be coming back to your board at a later date once we have all of that. Well, we have them figured out. We have the estimates figured out. However, we're going to need to work on the additional funding to kind of close up what we need, the shortfall for the actual project itself. So what's actually coming to the board today is just the contract portion, which is the 3.9 million.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Did we go out to the public on this? Let's go out to the public on the comments. None online? Thank you. Bring it back to the board. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamha,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay, I think that concludes our consent calendar agenda. Item 6A.
6A, Board of Supervisors Department, presentation of a certificate of recognition for Alicia Brown for her services to Madera County as founder and
Okay, that's fine.
CEO of the Project Run Madera.
Hi there. Thank you. So we have Alicia Brown, and she's done a great job here over the last several years, and really her whole lifetime in terms of her Project Run Madera, and getting shoes on kids that are athletes and potential athletes, and to jet them into stardom. So with that, Alicia, why don't you, I think you have a short PowerPoint presentation that you'd like to provide for us, and that'll be exciting.
Sorry about that. I'm preoccupied here. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I did make some corrections, so when I get to it, I will let you know. All right, so, oh, is it ready? All right, well, as mentioned, my name is Alicia Brown. I am a Madeira native. A little bit about my story. I grew up here, went through the entire school system. So I attended preschool at Sierra Vista, and then went to Millview Elementary, MLK. Desmond opened up. I was the first graduating class from Desmond Middle School, and then went to Madera High. The school split, and then I graduated from Madera South. Through all of that, were some hard times and some struggling times. I grew up in a single parent home. My mother had two of us that she had to raise on a single income, low income at that. And so we struggled a lot. And the good thing was we found out that I was good at running. The not so good thing was that running costs money, because shoes cost money, apparel costs money, to travel costs money. And when you're good, you get to travel, but you need money to travel. So the great thing about growing up in this community was that there were always people willing to help. Mr. Poitras even was one of those people willing to help. So many people from the community pitched in, family members included, my coaches. Particularly my coaches bought my running shoes once they found out that I was running in Payless shoes from the school year prior, and found out why my arches were aching so much. And so all of this to say that the community pitched in to make sure that I was successful in running, in higher education. My running led me to become an All-American in the mile. And then I went on a full ride scholarship to UC Riverside. And after UC Riverside, I ended up signing my first contract with Wazell. And during that time span, in 2017, I had my first professional contract, and the coach from MLK, Sky Fierro, he's still coaching now at Madera South. He reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I know that you've got a brand new sponsor. Congratulations on becoming a pro. Can you help us out with some sports bras?" And I said, "Oh, sure. Like, what's going on? Like, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, I have a bunch of girls on the team and they run in their regular undergarments and they rinse them out and they wear them to school. And then they run in them and then they wear them to school. And could you help us?" And I said, "Oh yeah, let me reach out to my sponsor." And it was as easy as 1, 2, 3. My sponsor got back to me. They said, "Give me the sizes and we'll help you out." And so that was the first encounter I had with serving the youth with some garments and some gear. And they sent along some running shirts and it was really cool. We got to have a whole little event. I got to speak to the kids. And from there, it just kind of sparked an idea that I could do this on a bigger scale if all it took was for me to use my platform and the privilege that I had in being a pro runner to help the kids in my community. And so with that, the next year, I kind of helped again. And then in 2020, I helped a few schools. And then I started looking into how to run a nonprofit organization, read some books and listened to some podcasts and filed my paperwork. And we got started on a nonprofit. And then Project Run Madera came out of that. So last year was our first year operating as an official nonprofit, although I had already been doing what I'm doing. Now we are a certified 501c3 and a tax deductible organization. There should be a video. There it goes. Just a quick video on what we did last year. This will show some of the 300 student athletes that we served. Maybe it won't show it.
We're working on it. Just one moment.
Okay.
We want to see that.
Okay.
Alicia, just maybe I have a question now.
Yes.
We're looking, Madera is it's a great thing that what you've done here, and it shows what one person with a passion and heart for kids, what they can do. So we're really a running community. I mean, we have a legacy in cross country and track and field. And
Yes.
so are the shoes that you raise money for, are they mainly for cross country, or is it just kind of a combo?
It is a combo.
Okay.
We are serving track teams. The way I figure, if we serve track teams, those cross-country runners will be served, and they are, I'm an ex cross-country runner, even though I did not like those 3 miles. I ran them. So we are serving track teams. So with that, you get the runners, the jumpers, the throwers, everybody is included. At our gala, I got to hear back from one of the coaches, and he said what those shoes did for one of his throwers, excuse me. And this thrower is now throwing for Fresno City. And I mean, it just sparked him up, and he was just like, somebody's going to help me. This is amazing. Let me help myself. And that's what we're trying to do. So absolutely.
Great.
Yes. And just to clarify, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that my boys were involved in track and field, and I know there's a lot of young people that can't afford the gear. And I know Chachel Athletics Foundation gets involved in all of that partially, and I really appreciate what you're doing. It's phenomenal how that there's so much talent in this valley. We just recently had the Madera High, was it? The cross-country track and field. They placed in the top positions in
That was Yosemite.
Yosemite. I was trying to remember who it was. Yosemite High placed in some of the top positions in the state. And there is talent like that all over this area.
Yes.
Our kids can run. They really have a lot of great abilities. And I remember watching my boys run against and went to state, took CIF finals and went to state. So they did a great job with that.
Yes,
But,
but I
thank
think what it
you.
comes down to sometimes, and sometimes we don't realize it, is the accessibility that some of these student athletes have access to, and many of them unfortunately don't have access to. If my coaches didn't buy my running shoes, I wouldn't have been able to run, which means what would have I done with my life? I don't know, quite honestly, right?
Right.
There were a lot of routes I could have gone, and being in the streets is one of them. And so in a sense, those running shoes weren't just running shoes, they were an opportunity for me to save my own life and save my own self.
Wow,
And
that's
so
powerful.
when you realize that nobody's coming to save you, you have to save yourself. I might need some help, but I have to save myself. I think you take those shoes and you say, let me build something for myself. And so
So it
that's what
changed
we're
not
trying
only
to
the
do.
way you run, but the way you walk.
Absolutely.
There you go. I like that.
Yes, sir.
Let's watch this video. We have volume.
It does sound cooler with the music in the background, I will say. These are some of our middle schoolers and high schoolers that we did serve. There were about 300 of them from all the middle schools and high schools here in Madera Unified. I mean, the looks on their faces is
Priceless.
priceless.
A lot of lives changed right there.
And
Wow.
then we were very gracious enough to have raised enough money in our last fiscal year to be able to hold a track clinic. And so we held a track clinic in the summer in July, and that served about 200 athletes from Madera and a few from Fresno even came out, grades K through 12. It was fantastic. Just another short video. I don't think the sound likes us. We were able to bring in some pros and some college alumni to coach. And so the athletes got to experience that and meet some professional athletes, which was pretty cool. Mind you, this was in July, so it was very hot, and those kids were just willing to be out there and had the most fun.
How do you like hearing yourself?
Yeah, it's a little weird. Was it?
Well, I was a sprinter. I ran 120 low hurdles in the 100-yard. I'm dating myself just before meters. 120 low hurdles in the 100-yard dash, but we've got a runner, long distance runner right here.
I ran with was it niece and
My
nephew?
niece. Yeah,
Yes.
niece and nephew. Yeah.
Yes, Ann Poitras and Kevin Poitras, the
Yeah.
sweetest people you'll ever meet. Kevin used to call me mean, I guess,
Mean.
because I'm not the sweetest person you'll ever meet. It was a running joke because they were the nicest. So he was like, well, you're the meanest. And so I was the team captain. So, you know, I was a bit assertive sometimes.
You got to set the court. Exactly.
So this year we do plan on serving the same middle school and high school runners here in Madera. That number is incorrect. I just got the numbers back from coaches today, and it is not 300. We are at approximately 400. So that means more kids are coming out for track, and we're excited about that.
Super.
And I would like to add one thing because I share a very similar experience. When I was in high school, I also ran track and was a thrower. And I was the only one that was in my regular shoes. So shout out. And I was the poor kid, the free lunch kid.
Yeah.
And shout out to Ben Kubota, my throwing coach. He bought those shoes for me. And so it means a lot.
It makes all the difference, doesn't it?
That's a cool story.
Yeah, for sure. With again, the numbers are wrong there. It's for 300 athletes, but it really with those numbers, we're at about 400 athletes. That means we need more money to serve them. Total cost is running at about $15,000. Go ahead and add maybe another 2,000 to that to, you know, be able to serve the total 400. This is just something Wazelle put out. I said, like all good stories, the heroine will face hardship. It's all about, or barriers are inevitable. It's all about how and who you hurdle with. So even your best athletes are going to need some help, and we're hoping that's where we can come in. Track clinic costs as well. And so you can see the numbers there. It's going to run us about $5,000 for the total. But the great thing about this community is that usually we can partner up with some businesses and they can help us out for our track clinic. So I'm not really worried about the track clinic right now. Right now, my focus is making sure that we get running shoes to all 400 of our middle school and high school athletes. We are accepting donations. Checks can be made out to Project Run Madera. Our Zelle is fully functioning. The number is there. Donations can also be made on the website at projectrunmadera.org. And we also have Venmo. And it's a little bit slow. There we go.
There you go.
And that is it. Thank you so much for hearing me and having me.
Our we've got executive this afternoon. Very good. Always great to have someone like that who makes a difference in the lives of other people. Serving other people is what it's all about. That's what life consists of right there. That's awesome. All right, 6B.
6B, Board of Supervisors Department Presentation of Proclamation honoring Tracy Scott Contreras on a retirement from the Madera County Workforce Development Board.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I have the honor of reading the proclamation for Tracy this morning, but it would be remiss if we didn't invite former Supervisor Frazier up, who served on the workforce, who had a very good working relationship with Tracy, to share a few words as well. So when I'm through with the proclamation, I'd like to invite you up to say a few words. So proclamation, February 28th, 2023, Tracy Scott Contreras. Let me put my glasses. Whereas the Madera County Board of Supervisors takes great pride in recognizing and celebrating the extraordinary career of Tracy Scott Contreras, who is retiring after 37 years of dedicated service to the Madera County Workforce Development Corporation. And whereas Tracy has served in numerous roles during her tenure at Madera County Workforce, including operations analyst, manager, deputy director, executive director, and executive director. And whereas Tracy's unwavering commitment to the improvement of the workforce has left an indelible impact on the lives of countless individuals, communities, and businesses across our region. Her work has helped to connect workers with meaningful employment, provide skills training and career advancement opportunities, and improve the overall health of our local economy. And whereas throughout her 37-year career, she has demonstrated a tireless work ethic, exceptional leadership, and a deep passion for helping others. Her wisdom and guidance have inspired countless professionals in the field, and her contributions have earned her widespread respect and admiration. Now therefore it be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Madera does hereby extend our warmest wishes and heartfelt thanks to Tracy Scott Contreras for her 37 years of exceptional service and leadership, and wishes her all the best in her well-deserved retirement. And it's signed by all the members of the board.
Thank you. Brett Frazier, Madera County Assessor, and actually still current board chair for workforce development. It was the one board that I continued to serve on, and had Tracy not come in, I would have not still served on it. Tracy, when she took over as the executive director, really set it on a path of with a focus on delivering services to our community residents as well as the businesses in Madera County. I mean, I would have written exactly what that proclamation says. Her dedication to this area, to the region, to the state as a whole, and how she's held up by her colleagues throughout the state and throughout the region is pretty much unparalleled. She was at her retirement party, it said workforce guru, which is exactly what she is. And like I had said at that, I had been on that board for 4 to 4.5 years before she came on as the executive director. And it wasn't really until she got there that I knew exactly what that board did. And she came in with a passion to deliver those services to our community and educate the board. We used to have problems with getting a quorum, but once Tracy came in and she put meat on the bone on those agendas, and you knew what you were coming in to vote for and how it impacted the people that we serve, it really set it in a great direction. And not only that, the proof of a good leader is she found who was going to be taking over for her after, and brought along my new Vang, who's our new executive director. And I think, and she shares those same passion and pride in her work that Tracy did. And she had a great mentor in Tracy, and this community is truly better because of all the hard work that Tracy Scott Contreras put into that organization, not just as the executive director, but working there for years and years before as well. So I can't thank her enough for developing a passion for workforce development in my life and seeing what it means as a business owner, as a father, as a community member. And like we always say, or we don't always say it, so I forget who said it, but the best social program is a good paying job. And Tracy has delivered that to countless numbers of our residents. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you and congratulations to her in her retirement. And we just expect her to come back with her cookies and jam. So that's
Would you stay up and have a picture with us down?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add a few words. I've served on the board for a number of years myself, and under my Tico hardware hat. And I'd like to echo your remarks in terms of the clarity of mission. I believe that when Tracy came on board, it really kind of opened up and made things very transparent. And not that the previous one was not, but but Tracy had a way of really explaining and setting the course and making things very, very clear as far as what went on in the additional services. And of course, Tracy, she's very humble, and she's going to say it's her team, and that's absolutely correct. I mean, for anybody, nobody's going to succeed on their own. And it's, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Well, you're not going to do anything. It's going to be your team that you bring around beside you that's going to move forward. And that's exactly what you've done. And she's got an excellent team. And that's really, again, I think a tribute to her leadership.
Let's all go down. Is there any public comment on item 6B? Any other comment? And online? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 6C.
County Administration Department update on healthcare provisions in Madera County.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. Jay Varney, your County Administrative Officer. We agendized this item so we could give you kind of a overview of things that are going on related to healthcare throughout the county, and also to ask for direction on one particular item. So if you recall at your meeting, special meeting on Valentine's Day, February 14th, you did authorize staff sending a letter to Madera Community Hospital. We did receive a response yesterday. I believe we've distributed a copy to all of you. I have copies if the public wishes to take a look at that, but basically it's just a letter requesting our ongoing cooperation. But if you have any questions about that letter, I'd be happy to answer those. And if you have questions about any of these things, once I've run through them all, we'll be happy to go back. On the legislative side of things, Assemblymember Soria is working on a bill, the language for which is not fully drafted yet. We anticipated that it will be drafted in mid-March. It will be related to rural health care and rural hospitals. Senator Caballero is working on SB 870. If you look it up, it's basically a placeholder at this point. It has the first page of language. And I think you can imply from the placeholder language that it's going to be a bill related to supporting rural hospitals, because as we've discussed previously, we are not the only area that has a hospital that's up against the wall when it comes to staying afloat. And by support, I believe that this will be an ask specifically for money for statewide support for rural hospitals. Thursday this week, the 2nd, unfortunately, the good news is we're doing some things related to the media. The bad news is they conflict. So on Thursday, and we did not schedule these were scheduled by the folks who are either sponsoring or doing the story on these particular events. But on Thursday, from about 5 to 7 at Fresno City College, there's going to be a panel that's put together by National Public Radio. Our own Dr. Paul and Karen Paolinelli from MCH will be participating in that panel. We believe that their story isn't just about hospital failures, but how that stresses the rest of the system. We did try to make arrangements to have them come to this second item, which was a town hall put together by the Madera Coalition for Community Justice. It will be at the Madera South Cafeteria from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And there'll be a few of us on that panel. Myself, Sarah Boss, I think Supervisor Poitras will be on that panel. We have invited Camarina health as well. And maybe we can get an additional member from the hospital to participate in that one, but I believe it's designed for us to try to answer as best we can any questions the public has that we have answers for yet. Moving forward, it is that time of year again for community project funding at the federal level. So we have had discussions, and one of the projects that we're going to be pushing forward is related to EMS provision. Our understanding of this year's community projects are the dollar amounts available are smaller and the money has to be spent 12 months from when it's appropriated. So we thought this was a good focus area for EMS. Joel Begay will be speaking with the EMS providers later this week about if they're able to commit to the level of staff side funding that we would be able to potentially get from this grant. But it's one of the 3 grant areas that the county is going to ask for. With that, since we were talking EMS, I'll have Dr. Paul come up right now to give you an update on the current status of EMS, and then I'll continue.
Thanks. Yeah, Simon Paul, Health Officer from Madera County. Thank you, Chairman and board members, for the chance to update you. But I thought I'd take 2 seconds to mention that today is actually the final day of the California COVID state of emergency. Didn't feel like we'd get there necessarily, but we have. Yay. Accomplishment. 2 things as far as what we've been doing for the public related to the hospital closure is pushing out on our website. There's more information now, both on urgent care access and when to go to urgent care instead of the emergency room. For people who have Medi-Cal, the resources that are out there for them to get transportation, to know how to connect with providers, and for people who do not have Medi-Cal, how to get connected, signing up with that. And at the town halls, I know Sarah presenting at the one in Madera will also be talking about resources, again, trying to educate the public to stay on top of things to kind of mitigate the effects of the closure. As far as EMS, some of the questions that came up last week, Supervisor Wamhoff, I checked with Dan Lynch. And 2 things, I didn't realize it was not Madera County as a whole. They were looking in the response times data at the Valley Floor area, the area served by Madera Community Hospital, that ambulance is transported. So they didn't include the foothills area because they don't transport there. So it was the area that would be affected by Madera Community Hospital. They don't break it down into smaller areas, but they haven't noticed problems or situations in specific areas that would make them be looking at more specific areas. Their sense is things are operating about as usual. The other question I asked about is how does this affect sort of ambulance business operating costs and things like that? And it's complicated. They're not losing business to American Ambulance. American Ambulance has only picked up, I think, 1% of the calls. American Ambulance is very important as a backup. Like I said, if the ambulances are out of area, they will fill in. If there's another call, they get used. But so far, they haven't been used for much of the transporting. So they're not losing business to outside providers. The increased transport distance, they do actually charge per mile. So it's very hard to assess. That depends on your payer mix. Some pay a lot, some pay less. So it's complicated, but it's not an obvious huge loss or gain. Obviously, the different transport times. And I think the only other update is obviously after the CDPH and the other organizations that visited, they're still actively working with Madera Community Hospital on plans, whatever they can do to help, whether it's reopening clinics separately from the hospital, working with the hospital reopen, all those things are being considered. So I don't have updates on that, and but they are actively involved with that. I don't know if I go back to you or if questions now.
Any questions for Dr. Paul or Jay?
So Dr. Paul and Supervisor Gonzalez and Carla and Joel participated in a visit at MCH last Wednesday from a number of representatives of a number of the state health-based agencies. As an outgrowth of that particular meeting, Joel and the CEO of the hospital had a discussion regarding the direction the hospital is going in terms of bringing on their own consultant to provide for them a hospital turnaround plan. One of the issues, however, they have is that through certain things that restrict them and the potential, as has already been discussed previously numerous times, that they may be headed towards bankruptcy, that they have approached the county and requested that we participate with their consultant, and they have actually asked us to fund this study itself. So after running it through a number of us at the staff level, what we're asking for direction from today related to healthcare in Madera, at least on the Valley Floor side, is staff would recommend that we do reapproach the hospital and with certain caveats within that agreement that would allow access, full access to the county to the data, since we are paying for it, to participate in this plan. And the bottom line reason why is because their consultant, which wasn't the same one we picked, but is also a very reputable consultant, also participated in the consolidation between the Watsonville Hospital and the Parejo Valley Healthcare District last year. They have set together a list of deliverables and believe that within approximately 60 days of the timeframe of when they began, that they would be able to provide, in this case, it would be us and the hospital, if we were to participate, a hospital turnaround plan. We have not talked to the vendor. We haven't had in-depth conversations with the hospital about what we would do because we wanted board direction first. But certainly if we were to participate with 100% funding, then there's certain parameters that we would work with county council to get into the agreement to make sure that we had full access. And then in the absolute worst case scenario, if for some reason the hospital was to fail financially before the survey was done, we would still have access to the data and would be able to use some of that data to make our case to the state of why their rates at reimbursement are too low, that they provide to, like in our case, the state provides the money to Calviva, and then Calviva has to decide, how it's going to be split up. They don't get to ask for more money. They have to split up what's given to them. So I don't know what the board's direction is on that particular idea, or I can restate it if it's not fully clear.
Do you have any comments from the board? Questions? Go ahead,
I
Supervisor.
mean, I agree with, I would support Jay's recommendation in terms of giving them direction to negotiate the price or contract price and so forth with the sharing of data with that contract.
I agree as well. I think that's a well thought out parameter to go from. And we have to know what we're buying into and, set boundaries on that, limitations. So I agree with what Supervisor Poitras. Anyone else?
I'll just add that at last Wednesday's meeting, I really appreciate Dr. Paul and Joel for really painting the picture to those state agencies of what the real issues are. And so I came out of there understanding a lot more because it's very convoluted. And so I really appreciate the efforts.
Mr. Chairman, if we're past providing direction, I just have a question. In fact, it's in regards to last Wednesday's
Go ahead.
meeting. Was it California Department of Public Health? Were they there more as a listening session, or did they mention anything, or did they just say, oh, that's too bad? We'll do what we can do. I mean, was there any reply or any kind of comment from them?
Yeah. So our sense is that the elected legislative representatives from our area are working the administration to fund additional funds, both in this particular geographic area and statewide. And we believe that they're coming down to view the hospital was a response to our folks saying, look, we need you to come down here and really look at that. And then I'll let Dr. Paul fill in the blanks.
Didn't realize my last update was before that meeting. So the meeting actually, I think, was extremely impactful, and they had very high level. They had the health officer at state level from about 5 different agencies, HCI, which, OSHPD, they sort of regulate hospitals, the people who are involved with Medi-Cal, deputy directors, very high level people from about 5 different organizations, which I think is part of the problem. There's so many organizations involved. And I think they were stunned both by seeing a completely empty hospital in beautiful shape. And I think they also, I went with them on the tour of CRMC. They were stunned by how overwhelmingly over capacity CRMC is. So I think they mostly did it to get information about what was going on. But I think they picked up that information in a way that they never would have if they hadn't come to visit. And I know since then, they don't sort of involve us in what they're trying to sort out. But I know that they are continuing to work with Madera Community Hospital since that visit, trying to come up on plans. But back to the consultant thing, one thing that is blatantly obvious in every meeting is if we want to ask for something, we have to have a plan. And that's really a piece that we need somebody's help. The consultants are the obvious outlet to help us propose a plan of what are we actually asking for? What are the options of things we could ask for to try and move forward here?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Good.
So if I'm understanding the direction properly, we'll bring an item back to you on the 7th for the funding of this. And then the final thing is that ultimately, so we are going to retain our consultant Force 10 on a retainer. There may be some things that we want looked into that the ultimate hospital turnaround plan doesn't cover. And at some point, we would hope that through cooperating on the turnaround plan that we would get some additional answers. But there's also the fact that the majority of the Eastern Madera County people do not attend the hospital here. They don't come to Madera for healthcare. They go straight down 41 to Fresno providers. And we will probably bring something back to the board related to what can we do for that side of the county. I mean, you have a site that's been, it's no surprise to anybody. There's been a sign up there for about 3 years of another hospital provider wishing to place a campus out near Valley Children's Healthcare. And perhaps it's something that the county should look at participating with them as well, because I don't think anything we do will bridge that gap. The people are going to go down 41, and the people here, especially within the city limits, are going to go to the MCH or whatever's provided right here. So that will be something that will be separate from what we're discussing today, because we think it's a separate issue and may have completely separate solutions. And that concludes my report. I don't know if you have any additional questions.
Any additional comments or questions?
Only additional comment is I got word recently that CMC has put off any kind of expansion or whatever indefinitely because they're suffering the same financial losses that led to the closure of Madera Community. So anyway, just comment. So I don't think that's
Good to know that bad news, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things we've talked about internally that might be able to incentivize them, but I don't think it's enough to overcome that yet.
Just to throw in to the discussion a little bit more, I was at the RHA, which is a regional health authority, and I've been sitting on that for the last 12 years. It's the forming of CalViva and HealthNet. And they are very concerned. The entire there's about 25 doctors that sit on that board, and the doctors and the CalViva CEOs and what have you, the people involved made comments concerning they're very concerned about the impact to the region on this. So they've been inputting to legislators and keeping apprised of what's going on there, because they're suffering some of the same fates, and they're very concerned about that in a community that's much larger. This could really this could be the straw, as it were, that breaks the camel's back. So I think we're doing the right thing, moving forward and with a plan, not emotionally, but with a plan. It is an emotional issue, no doubt about it, but you have to view it with technical eyes as well as financial eyes, and make sure that we're not throwing good money after bad in the circumstance. So thank you for the report. Thank you for the information, and we appreciate the continued contact in that area. So that concludes that item, right? Okay, very good. Any public comment on that item? I'm sorry. Any public comment on that item? Any online? Okay, if not, I'll bring it back to the board and we'll do item 6D.
6D, Human Resources Department, discussion and consideration of entering into an amendment to contract number 12167-22 with Coffin Associates in the amount of $21,080, amending the statement of work to include an organizational study for the Water and Natural Resources Department and authorize the chairman to sign.
Roman?
Thank you. Roman Noriega, Human Resources. I just want to point out that this amendment is for the Water and Natural Resources Department organizational structure review. So their classifications are already included in the class and comp study. But this is really looking at their organizational structure itself and analyzing that and coming back and including that into their report.
Okay. Any public comment on this item? Bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move for approval.
Motion is made.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
The vote passes 5-0.
6E,
6C, Human Resources Department, discussion and consideration of approval of the Madera County Sheriff's Office hiring bonus program.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Susan Carter from Human Resources. We worked with the Sheriff's Office to create this program so that it could assist in the recruitment and retention of our correctional officers, our deputy sheriffs, our public safety dispatchers, because those are positions that across the state you have shortages in. And as well as here, we're trying to recruit just as any other agency is. And they're critical to providing the safety, a community safety. And so the program itself is set up where it actually provides an incentive for individuals. For new hires, it would be $5,000. It's kind of like a sign-on bonus or hiring bonus. It's up to $5,000. And then for lateral recruits, it's $10,000, up to $10,000. And they would reach these as they phase in as new employees when they reach certain milestones. So one of the biggest components of it, though, is that these new employees will have to actually sign a 3-year commitment to work with the sheriff's office. And so if they do not continue with that 3-year commitment, then they would then have to pay a portion of the monetary bonus back to the county. So the impacted bargaining units have agreed to the provisions of this program. And we will continue to monitor it, to evaluate it, to make sure that we are appropriately paying out monies that we have. We want to make sure that we don't get ourselves in a bind by doing this, but we believe that it will be helpful, as I said, in the recruitment and retention of these valued positions. And so I'm here to answer any questions, but I believe we do have several members from the sheriff's office here that can also address any questions you might have.
any questions from the board? Any comment from the public on this item? Not, I'll bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion is made.
Second.
Second, we'll have the roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6F.
Thank you.
Thank you.
6F, Public Works Department, Engineering Services Division, discussion and direction by action of the Board of Supervisors, if desired, related to updates and prioritization lists for repairs to county road network damages resulting from the January 2023 winter storm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, Chief of Development Services. We do have a PowerPoint presentation for the board and public on this item. As you may recall, we were here before you on February 7th. And so this is an update on where we are at and the steps we've taken and the ones we will be proceeding with here in the very near future. So with that, we'll jump right into it. And again, this is kind of we're going to see here. I'll give it a few minutes before, if we can get it up on the screen. It's on the desktop. Just bear with us here. I think we're a couple seconds away. All right, I think looks like we just got it up here. So again, this first slide here is an overview of the storm damages from January, beginning of this year. We had over 180 damaged locations identified throughout the county. The damages ranged anywhere from potholes to fully washed out roadways and also bridge structure damage in the Avenue 18.5 event. So current total costs ranging from $4 million to $5 million. So this presentation and our plan is to attack those 16 most severe locations identified, which of currently 8 of those remain closed. Here again is a list of those roadways in the wastewater treatment plant for Oakhurst. In that one, we've had that access road repaired. Good news on Avenue 26. We have had success in negotiating with Federal Highway Administration, and they have opened up that contract with Granite Construction that redid Avenue 26. So Granite Construction will be mobilized. I think with our weather situation, they were intended to be mobilized out there tomorrow. I think that will probably slip into early next week. And they anticipate a 2-week turnaround to have that completely finished and open back up, and that work done on Avenue 26. So that is good news on that one. Our other big project on this list that I would call out for that is going to be handled a little differently would be the road, the Avenue 18.5 bridge at the bypass. So we have a RFQ request for proposal and qualifications for the engineering evaluation of that road, that bridge. We estimate that that's at least $1 million plus correction action. So we hope to have that out and work commencing on that evaluation here. I guess it's next month because we're February 28th, but the rest here we'll walk through kind of one by one. Again, we talked on the Oakhurst wastewater treatment plant. That work has been done. AG Construction completed that work for us in a matter of days. So the Avenue 26, we touched on that briefly. Again, Granite will be mobilized out there. This is no cost to the county, no additional cost to Madera County on this Avenue 26 fix. The 18.5 bridge, again, like previously stated, that assessment will commence here shortly on the evaluation of what it's going to take to get that. Now that we've got a little lower water in there, we can get crews in there to make that assessment. Road 28.5, again, this is a main one. We anticipate, or we did get a bid back, $79,000 for repair work. And that will be completed 11 days from the start of that work at 28.5. 23, also very similar. We got a 10-day completion from mobilization to get that up and running at road 23. Dogwood Creek, this one's certainly a bigger task because we have utility issues. This is our most expensive out of the ones that we're going to proceed with the contractor on to fix. And 18 days from commencement. Erie Road, similar again, we have infrastructure utilities in the roadway. That's a 2-week turnaround from getting crews out there and getting that fixed. And we'll have a breakdown that runs through these at the end here. Seminole Avenue as well. Similar issues that we have up there in Erie that we intend to get mobilized. Road 417 is open. So this is kind of lower down on our priority. Our contractor we're going to move forward with. We will be able to direct them on these specific roads to work on first. So we'll talk a little bit more on that as we get towards the end of this presentation. But 417 again, John Road West, that is open as well. Although I should throw out a little caveat there. Before Friday, it was open. I'm not sure of its status currently. I know we've had plows up John West and John Road East recently, but John Road East as well, open pending snow removal. That's a 10-day turnaround. 222 again is open. Sutton Drive. This is got some obviously underwashing and slope stabilization to get in there, culvert replacements there. 7, some minor repairs along the shoulders there to cure and fix. Avenue 9, we've done some stabilization work along Avenue 9 here shortly after the storms to shore up that slope, but it's about a 7-day turnaround to cure that and put that back in place. 17.5 is another one that we are not going to have the contractor, our county road crews are going to get in there and fix Avenue 17.5. So once we dry out a little bit, they'll be getting in there to get 17.5 fixed and open back up. Here's the breakdown of the costs of each of these facilities. We did bid this work out. We did get 3 bid proposals we received back. And we have selected AG Construction to do this work. Again, you're looking at, and we're going to authorize them to do the $1.28 million worth of work. It really is a betterment. It talks about increasing the head walls and rock slope protection so that these facilities are in a much better, much more improved for the next storm, next wave of storms and flood that could occur out there. So these facilities will be improved beyond that. So again, our goal is to issue a notice to proceed to AG in the next week. Currently, AG is clearing snow up in the Cascadel Woods, Cascadel Heights area. But as soon as they get down the mountain, we'll get them mobilized and getting to work. We will have these locations that are identified will be the first in there, right? Get 28.5 open, 23, and then move into Dogwood, Erie, and Seminole that are closed. And then the last phase would be those roads that are currently open or minimal traffic flow to them on that. So available for any questions, but again, in short, we intend to issue a notice to proceed to AG Construction to get in there and commence work immediately.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for this presentation. Any comments or direction or thoughts for item? I think we're proceeding as we expect.
Perfect. We'll get on it. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Any public comment on this item? If not, we'll move on. Next item. 6G, I think it is.
6G is Sheriff Coroner's Office, discussion and direction or approval regarding options for continued tree mortality response as listed on the agenda.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Joseph Wilder with the Sheriff's Office. I'm here to provide you some information on the tree mortality program and what direction you would like to give us to go with. We started the tree mortality program back in 2015. Your board allotted about $500,000 to the project to meet the CDA, California Disaster Assistance Act assistance program to provide for tree mortality work in the eastern part of the county. We've roughly completed approximately $7 million worth of work, only costing the county that initial $500,000 layout. We had grants from CAL FIRE and a couple other ones that supplemented. We do get an administrative fee from CDAA, which Sheriff Barney and then Sheriff Pogue continue to reallocate back to the tree mortality fund. So we're at the point where we've spent down the funds to the point where we are out of money. So essentially we have three options available to the board. Is one, we get another allotment of funds from the general fund to supply the tree mortality org to continue operations. The second option is to realign the program and start looking towards road funds and special districts, because we have been working inside special districts within the county, different places within the mountain that we could pull funding from. And then the last option is to move tree mortality operations from the sheriff's office, because sheriff's OES handles the entire tree mortality process from project development to hiring the contractors to site supervision to cost recovery with the state, back to county roads and allowing them to handle it in their normal workflow, as in it goes through a request through 311 or 311 and then goes through county road department. So I'm here to happy to answer any questions you may have or anything you might want to know about.
I think as far as the funds leveraging, you guys have done an outstanding job when you consider the amount of work done for the small investment. Plus, we're getting some of that back as far as through the administrative part, right? We're getting some of that 500,000 back into our operations. And I don't know how the sheriff's office feel about it. There's no recommendation from you one way or another on whether you want to continue to handle this. I think you've done an outstanding job to this point, and I hate to reinvent the wheel. It's already working good, but you might have some thoughts on that. I'd like to hear your thoughts. And anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, it's as far as has been working, that would be a great thing. What I'm wondering about special districts, I noticed that they have not participated in it looks like they haven't participated in the past, or I guess they did prior to 2015. Would that be an option as far as maybe modifying option one and adding in special districts? Because there's no lack of opportunity for funding, tree removal. I mean, I'm sure it's massive, and it's even more, it's extraordinary probably in terms of the cleanup that's required. So anyway, I guess I'm looking for more funding opportunities.
Yeah.
So the only caveat with that, Supervisor, is the fact that we have to be very careful with the billing when it goes back to state OES. They're going to want to know that the funds were not commingled. We have to show basically the footprints of where this is. So we have to especially draw those project areas within that special district and bill that special district for those funds, and then show Cal OES that if we're only working within, Broadview Terrace in the mountains, that all those trees occurred in Broadview Terrace. We have to show the map and all that data to them. So that's the only caveat with that, is to be very careful with that, to show that footprint.
So would your recommendation be option one?
That would make it the cleanest way for the billing portion of it, to just continue to fund the tree mortality org, which is 4053, and place that, as I call it, seed money into that account, and allow us to start spending down on that money, and then allowing the reimbursements to come back in as we have been our prior practice.
And what would that cost be in terms of projected costs as far as funds required from the general fund? I guess it'd be the best way to.
So that's at your board's discretion, depending on how much. It's a 25% match. So if you put 250, you're going to get about $1 million. So it just depends on how much you're wanting to put forward to this effort. Mariposa County has taken a little bit of a different approach, where they only allot so much. They wait for the funds to be returned from the state, and then they move forward with the next project. We took a different stance, where we were consistently, with the cooperation and assistance of county admin, continuously allowing to pay out for continuing to let projects keep going and then just wait for the reimbursements to come back in.
I guess what I'm looking for is some kind of a recommendation, maybe perhaps from administration, because I could sit here and say, oh, hey, I recommend we do X, Y, Z from the general fund. But I think that it's important to have some approximate numbers and some kind of an upper limit. And that would be, to me, an administration type recommendation because they know what our budget is and so forth.
Maybe we could.
Otherwise, I'd feel like I'm shooting blindly.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe we could do option one and then recommend that that administration come back with a recommended amount. Would that be, you think, acceptable?
I'd like that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I do
Okay,
have one,
go ahead.
Thank you. Actually heard both things, sort of. So we will come back with an exact, but from talking with the sheriff's staff, it appears that in the area of $1 million, we'll deal with the trees that are left to be dealt with. So it may be right around the $250,000 supervisor and board.
Sounds good. Okay, go ahead.
and Sergeant, if you could explain or give me a brief, or give us all a brief overview of what the tree mortality response actually is, what it covers, and just synopsis of what that is.
So the workflow, the way it occurs right now is essentially the sheriff's staff goes out. We use reserve deputy sheriffs, deputy sheriff and myself. We go out, review trees, see if they are dead or dying. We mark them. Our arborist comes back through and verifies our work. We assemble into a project. We have 3 separate contractors that we have on retainer. We bid it out with those 3. So every project is rebidded every time to ensure that we're getting the most effective price possible. And once we select, we do a short bid process where we involve CAO's office. They sign off on it, sheriff signs off on it. We move forward. They remove the trees. We do the billing with Cal OES, which takes roughly about 6 to 8 months to complete the billing process, and the funds are returned to us. So this all started with Governor Brown declaring a disaster for the tree mortalities back in 2015. So that essentially opened up California Disaster Assistance, which is the funding source that continues to push this program forward.
And are these trees, are they marked for potentially hazardous areas like near roadways, or how are these determined?
Correct. They have to be a threat to the public safety on a county right of way or a county roadway, a building, anything that the county is responsible for.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
No problem.
I'd like to add just one more thing. It's not that I'm in a hurry to spend $250,000, and Joel will probably come flying in the room here in a minute going, "What'd you promise?" But this will be the second legislative session where we faced a bill actually from one of the northern counties, which was a little unusual, trying to make tree mortality work become a prevailing wage operation. And you can imagine how expensive that would be if it did. So if we can't, we will pitch to you the best project that we can afford to offer to the county so that we can avoid that.
Thank you.
Just a quick question,
Yes,
Chair.
go ahead.
And Sergeant, do you know how long the CDAA funding is going to be available to counties? I know we've been doing this since 2015, and originally there were some additional funds from CAL FIRE that we used. But as far as the 75% match, are we expecting that's going to go away anytime in the near future?
So Cal OES has reached out to us. We're one of 2 counties still participating in the program, and they were wanting to know what our intentions are. I don't believe there's any intention at the state level to close out the disaster if we're still participating. And we just closed out a job in end of January where we took down 50 large sized trees. So we're in the process of moving forward with the billing with that. So I don't know if there's any additional grant funding that's going to be available through CAL FIRE or anything else coming down from them.
And what I'm kind of getting at is I'm just curious to know if, you know, for instance, Public Works or perhaps another organization was interested in continuing the pursuit of those funds. Would that be possible to work in collaboration with Madera County OES on that in a project like that, or how does that work?
It is possible that the reimbursement program has to go through the county OES office. It's a requirement. So we would have to be involved. There requires some knowledge of how to do the cost recovery process we've had some stop gaps with and some issues with. So it's very intuitive. So if we are to attack that approach, we will have to be very careful. I would highly suggest slow and methodical steps because one accident can cause a lot of issues.
Expensive boo-boo.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, well, thank you for all your work on this. I know you've been doing it for a long time, so appreciate you being here.
No problem.
Any comment from the public? No one online? Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
I believe they're actually asking for direction.
Yes.
So I'm looking at option one and with our CAO
Come back.
bringing back with,
Okay. Do we want to make that a motion? We can do that as a motion, or we could just do a thumbs up. on
I'll make
that.
it a motion.
Yeah, Chair, we put in the or approval just in case there was a desire to vote.
Okay.
So whatever your
I think
pleasure
that would be a
is.
good motion. You want to make that a motion?
Yep, it's a motion.
Motion is made.
I'll second that.
Motion made in second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilmhoff?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6H.
6H, Sheriff Coroner's Office. Request for comment regarding the California Truth and Values Act, AB 2792, as listed on the agenda.
Morning Supervisors, Brian Estes, Assistant Sheriff. So in 2017, Assembly Bill 2792 established what is known as the Truth Act, and that stands for the Transparent Review and Unjust Transfer and Holds Act. And so what that does is counties who provide access to individuals in their custody to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement have to come before the board and provide those numbers and statistics. In 2022, we did not provide access to anybody in our custody to ICE. But we thought it was important to still come before transparent and let people know the process and kind of what those numbers are. So in 2022, we booked 4,620 individuals. Everybody is fingerprinted when they come into our custody. And when they're fingerprinted, we had 23 individuals who had a hit from Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So once we get those hits back, we have a set of parameters that we have to go down and make sure that it follows those parameters. And if the individual has to be a serious felon, serious or violent felon, somebody who's committed a felony who could be punished by state prison, somebody who is a registered sex offender or arson offender, individual who is currently going through court proceedings who after a preliminary hearing has been held to stand trial for those charges, and an individual who's been convicted in the past 5 years of a wobbler. And a wobbler is a crime where the district attorney has the ability to prosecute that as a felony or a misdemeanor. So applying all those parameters to those 23 hits back we got on those individuals booked into our custody, only 6 people met those requirements. Although ICE never inquired about those or requested to arrange meetings about those, so there was nothing was arranged by our county to cooperate.
Okay. So is there any public comment on this item? Bring it back to the board. Any board comment on this?
You said that ICE never reached out regarding those 6 individuals. What is in place to notify them of these individuals in custody?
Yeah, so when they put a hold on someone in the system, and as soon as we run prints, they'll get a hit in their system, letting them know that that person is in our custody, and that alerts them to that.
So how, I mean, because we know now that even for some felonies, people are out of custody in a short amount of time. So how much time is given to ICE to respond to these hits?
They have as much time as that person is is that we can legally hold them. We will not hold them any longer than we have on their current charges or current case that they're dealing with.
Thank you. Any other comment or questions? None from the public again. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the report. Thank you. Okay, item 7, pending legislation.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is the busiest time for legislation. Authors are still able to put in spot bills through about the middle of March. There's a number of bills out there that I don't think make government more efficient. And if the board would like, once things close, we can bring back a more detailed analysis of that. I will also go back in, and if you haven't received the information from Shaw Yoder, I will forward that out to all the board members so that you have the bills that relate specifically either to Madera County as a semi-rural county or to the Central Valley itself.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions on this item?
And if you like, I can do 7A.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
7A, County Administration Department, discussion on authorization to send a letter of support for Assembly Bill 283 for the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission.
BHS Director Moreno Peraza apologized for not being able to be here today, but she had other responsibilities that she had to take care of. She is 100% in support of this bill, and we have submitted to you also a bill supporting Mr. Patterson's bill that would require representation throughout the 10 regions of California. If you recall, we also ran into the same kind of problem during redistricting. The redistricting board was made up of people, none of which were from the Central Valley. So anything we can do to make a more accurate and representation of Californians, especially in our area, that is why we've submitted this for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on 7A? Any comment from the public on item 7A? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move for approval.
Move. Second. Motion made and second. Let's have a roll call vote.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, supervisor and staff reports. Supervisor McCauley.
Had a new supervisors institute up in Sacramento last week, so it was a great opportunity to go up there and not only meet with some of our peers over in Mono County, talk about Reds Meadow Basin and some road projects there, folks from Mariposa County, and discuss some concerns over vegetation management, but meet with one of our new senators, Maria Alvarado Gill, and talk about 41 and get a letter of support for a grant we're doing there. So great trip, along with Supervisor Wamoff, and got a great opportunity to learn about being a new supervisor. So
That makes me think of Bill Chiat,
there you go.
because Bill Chiat was one of the founders of that institute. What a great guy he was. Miss him. Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, next week I will be attending the CalCog Annual Conference in Riverside. Starts Sunday, goes through mid-afternoon on Tuesday. The scheduling of the meeting was a little puzzled me, and I'll be in a position where I can ensure the meeting doesn't conflict with Board of Supervisor meetings next year, as I'm moving up the chairs, and if I don't get recalled by the CalCog board, I will be the president. And so, but anyway, and there's a number of county supervisors on the CalCog board or representatives. And again, in supervisor meetings typically are on Tuesdays. So again, it's kind of a head scratcher why it was scheduled for that particular time. But anyway, I'll be participating in that. And then, but anyway, unable to attend today or next week's board meeting here. And then I'll be racing up to RCRC for the meeting on Wednesday in Sacramento.
And Supervisor Poitras has been nominated as an outstanding Valley legislator. So I don't know if you realize.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Who was it? My family?
I
No.
I think that was a surprise. No.
Oh,
It's through
It
MCT.
looks like it's a surprise to him.
Oh,
Anyway,
Wow.
yeah, congratulations,
Oh,
sir.
thank you.
We know you're an outstanding legislator and it's great that others are recognizing that. So
thank you.
you bet. I attended the Regional Health Authority, as I mentioned earlier, and definitely all eyes are on Madera Community Hospital and what happens with that. Very important. I also sit on the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority. That meeting was hindered by communications with the website that they tried to get the meeting on. So there wasn't a quorum, and so we will be rescheduling that meeting concerning Temperance Flat Dam. Very important subject that we've been fighting for 20 years. So we hope that something can happen on that. Pass it off to my colleague on my left here.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Chairman. Last week, I attended New Supervisor Institute with Supervisor McCauley. That was on Thursday and Friday of last week. And it was a great time to network with all the new supervisors, and got to listen to some really great speakers about tips and tricks of the trade and what to expect. I did go up a day early and met with several state representatives from the Valley. So I met with Assemblymember Esmeralda Soria, Assemblyman Jim Patterson, State Senator Ana Caballero, Assemblyman Vince Fong, and a friend of mine who is a Stanislaus County Sheriff Sergeant who was recently elected to the Assembly, Juan Alanis. And so it was cool to meet with him and get his perspective as well. We talked about all things water, CHP allocation for Madera County, but it seemed like all things went back to the hospital. So that dominated most of the conversations there. Last Tuesday, I had my first coffee and conversations to continue on with former Supervisor Frazier's meeting that he had at the library. And so we kicked it off with the first one and got a lot of feedback from that as well. So that was a good event. And I'll be having the next one April 25th at 8:30 a.m. at the Ranchos Library.
Excellent. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you. We are having a community meeting tomorrow night over in Parksdale Village, particularly to talk about safety and the graffiti that's rampant throughout the entire county, apparently. Also, there will be several members of the staff and or different organizations from Madera County participating in the Valley Surf Kickoff meeting tomorrow, which is in Fresno. And then finally, the NAACP, the local chapter, is hosting a mixer tonight over at San Joaquin Winery. So everyone's invited.
Thank you very much. CAO.
Nothing additional to report, Chairman.
Thank you. County Council.
I have a short report here related to a local government omnibus bill that was Senate Bill 1439 that changed something related to ordinances. So one of your favorite topics, but it actually changes some of the outdated, ineffective way that you all have become familiar with, and that's related to the first reading, the waiver of the first reading and setting the second, waiving that. That has all been eliminated now. Looking at the legislative history, it just seemed archaic is what we could draw from it. And it didn't really it wasn't highlighted to most folks because it was shoved into one of those bigger packets. And so you'll be seeing some of that change on the agenda, but it's lawful. And the law now reads that so long as the title of the ordinance is listed on the agenda, which we certainly do that. And the full copy of the ordinance is posted in the backup. We also do that. And a hard copy is available to the public online and here at the meeting prior to introduction or at passage. Then that system that you've become very familiar with is no longer needed. So you'll see that at the city level, at the county level, and just wanted to let you know of that change going forward. So as long as the title's on the agenda and we have it in the backup and the public has access to it online in here, you can always take my copy here. Then it'll look a little bit more simple and hopefully just more familiar to those that are watching about what's going on as you consider those items. Thank you.
Right. And also I understand that the legislation you recently reported to us on is now under scrutiny. It's been, there's a lawsuit concerning that item.
Yes, there is.
And
And
so it's being taken to court and.
that's the
Yeah.
campaign donation. There's litigation related to it. CAO has been on top of that as well. And the League of City put out some clarification. I'll send that over to you in case it's helpful. I want to have that with me here today too, but
Right.
yeah, continues to be a hot topic and now subject of litigation.
Right. Thank you very much.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you for this meeting. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.